I'm doing this in one take. I don't care if it's bad. I don't care whatever. I don't care if I stutter or say something stupid. It's going in one take. I can't tell a story like a million times. It's just gonna take way too long. So, hello guys. It's been 7 months, I think, since I've seen you last. I've missed you. I haven't been doing anything fun for those 7 months. In fact, quite the opposite. I would say those 7 months have been the most painful, excruciating, and traumatic months of my life, probably ever. I really doubt I'll ever go through anything like this again. It's been literal hell. And you might be wondering what went down. Well, something was wrong with my brain. And by the time I got diagnosed, the diagnosis was post-viral non-recurrent encephalopathy, which is a little bit of a weak diagnosis. It just means, maybe you had a virus, and after that virus, your brain just went wacky. Post-viral, post-virus, encephalopathy, something wrong with your brain. Encephalopathy is different than encephalitis, where encephalitis, your brain is inflamed. Encephalopathy is like your brain's acting up and we don't know why. We never found the numbers. We never found the exact reason why your brain was acting up. Now, personally, I think it was encephalitis, but there's just not enough evidence to back that. I think it was just a mild, moderate case of encephalitis, but we'll never know for sure. The purpose of this video is, well, it has multiple purposes. I wanted to tell you guys why I've been gone for so long. And I also kind of want people to bear witness to my suffering because it was so bad, and to get at least a somewhat of a peek into what actually happened, because not many people in my family know what happened exactly. They kind of get the general idea, but it's only a select few people know the brutal details of what I went through, and not just me, my twin brother went through over the last 7 months. So I want people to bear witness to my suffering because it was so bad. I don't want the story just to die out, or for me to just deal with it inside. I want you guys to be my thousands of therapists, I guess, and I just want it documented and to as best as I can, never look back at it ever again. Not that it's over. I'm still dealing with the repercussions of it, and I imagine I will be for quite some time. I don't know how long. I don't know if if I'll ever be exactly the same. I don't know. Just to be honest, I don't know. This is also my chance to tell the story where I'm not pleading with a doctor, because when you go to a neurologist and you're like, my brain is going haywire, I need help. You have to make your case. Otherwise, if there's nothing on your MRI or there's no data to back you up, it's just your word that there's something wrong with you. And that's kind of what it ended up being. So I've told this story a bajillion times, but in a scenario where it's for me, life or death. If they don't listen to me and help me, I'm screwed. So this is an opportunity for me just to tell the story how I want to tell it, without feeling like I'm pleading my case to somebody. So, without further ado, here we go. Started back in September of last year. September 10th, 2021 was the first day I had symptoms. And it started pretty nonchalant. I just started with fatigue. I was tired. And I live in southern Idaho and with my twin brother, and I just started getting tired. And as the days kept going on, I got more tired, had to take naps very often, and then I got a lot of malaise, just intense feeling of grog. And it just kept going for a week, and then 2 weeks, and I'm like, what's going on here? Because if I'm getting sick, why is it just fatigue and malaise and maybe some diarrhea or whatever, but no runny nose, no sore throat, and it's going on for 2 weeks now, and it's just getting worse. Really kind of weird, but I just figure, maybe it's COVID or something. So I go get a COVID test, and it's negative. At the same time, my twin brother, Eric, which I do actually have a twin brother. I might as well call him in.
Hello.
Hi. What am I?
Yeah, that's all you have to say if you want.
Okay.
I'm proving that you exist.
Hi, I exist. I edit his videos.
Pull your head down so you see the blonde hair. There you go.
See? All right. I have a twin. It's real. Okay, bye-bye. So at the same time as I'm developing this, my twin brother is developing the exact same thing. And then it starts getting weird. At first it was maybe I'm getting sick, I'm just super tired, but then it starts getting weird. I start developing this intense numb ball behind my forehead. It just feels like someone injected lidocaine behind my forehead. And then I start feeling really mentally unstable. Like, and the inside of my brain, it feels like my brain's going, this is fine, this is fine. Oh, fuck, oh God, oh God, oh God, this is fine, this is fine. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Just like teetering back and forth. So like mentally, I'm starting to feel like unstable. And I remember I was walking with Eric, we were walking our dog, and I asked him, I was like, do you feel like you're like all of a sudden mentally unstable? And he's like, yeah, what the heck's going on with that? I was like, I don't know. We still think it's COVID because it's just so weird. It's just a weird illness, whatever. We'll get over it in a matter of weeks or something. I remember saying specifically one day when I was feeling really bad, I said, I bet I'll be better in 5 days. And little did I know it's going to be like another 8 months. Okay, so whatever. I'm feeling fatigued, whatever. I have this weird numbness behind my head. I'm still delusional. I think it's COVID. Go up to northern Idaho to visit my parents. No, I can't remember. I can't remember the story. Listen, the story's not going to be perfect. I can't remember. The story's not going to be perfect. I can't remember all the details. It's 7 months, but you guys will get an image at least of what went down. So I start developing the numb ball behind my head, right? And then mental instability. And then all of a sudden I'm having these weird, like massive perceptual shifts where in a split second, like the world becomes void and loses all meaning and like becomes like the texture of the world and how I feel the world becomes totally desolate for 3 hours. And then it'll snap back to normal. And I'll have these kind of weird perceptual shifts all the time. It feels like the devil's inside my brain, like yanking on different levers and stuff and making me feel different ways. And not just emotional states, but like experiences, like states of being, like really weird stuff. And I still am in denial and think it's COVID or something like that. So I get tested again for COVID and it's negative. And I go get tested for mono and it's negative. Somewhere around this point in October, so it's been over like a month, around a month, I have a video of me talking about how I'm feeling. Hi, future Adam. This is sick Adam from the past. Day 15 of being sick. And I hope you're happy. I hope you look back on this and go, wow, that really sucked. But I've almost totally forgotten about it. My life is so great that I never even think about that time where life was about the worst thing on the planet. Or maybe it's a year from now and you're watching this and you're like, oh my God, I'm still sick. Either way, you're looking good. Catch you later. So I'm having weird perceptual shifts and stuff, but it's not even as weird as it's gonna get. The malaise is building to the point where it's like I feel like there's 1,000,000 pounds on me, like I'm covered in molasses. Like it's a similar feeling to when you like have a really heavy nap and then you wake up and you're super groggy. It's like that, but like on steroids. And then I started developing neurological issues. I was grabbing a bottle of Advil and I turned it over and my hand started shaking like this, and like the whole Advil bottle was rattling. I was like, that's really strange. And then over more weeks, I started developing more neurological problems where I'd be walking and my legs would give out underneath me as I'm walking. And for a stretch, I had a difficult time talking. I'd be stuttering and slurring my speech, and like words would come out wrong. I remember I was walking by a neighbor who's walking his dog, and I said, hey, a cute dog. And instead it came out, cute dog. Like I couldn't talk. Words weren't coming out of my mouth. And I was walking my dog and I was like trying to talk, and I was saying, I can't talk. I can't talk. It's exactly like that. I can't talk. And my legs are giving out, my hands shaking. I just started crying. So I'm like, what is going on with me? It's been over a month of like just weird shit happening. And now I can't talk, and I'm walking weird, and my hands are shaking like I have Parkinson's disease. So I start just crying, and I get kind of, I just get scared. I don't want to be home anymore alone with this. I had another roommate at the time, but I just was mostly alone. I didn't want to be alone anymore. So I took a trip up to my parents where my brother was already staying. We had taken a visit there earlier, and he developed COVID. And so he stayed there, and I came back home to southern Idaho. And then when I started developing all these weird neurological symptoms, I headed up north. So I arrive in northern Idaho, and I'm telling my parents about like what's going on. Like, this is kind of really weird. My hands are shaking. I don't know. Like, my mom noticed my hands shaking. I'm pointing at her. I bought her an Apple Watch, and I was pointing at it Weird flex, but okay. And my hand was shaking. She's like, why are your hands shaking? I was like, I don't know. I don't know why my hand's shaking. Thanks for asking. I have no clue. I wish I knew what was going on. And I expressed my concerns to my parents, and they're kind of just kind of cluing in that something's going on, but they don't know that it's that serious. And I'm not really making it as big of a deal as I should, because on the inside, my brain feels like Satan is riding me. It feels horrible on the inside. And this is at the end of October, entering November. I feel just terrible. Like the malaise is so intense. Like every morning I can't talk to anybody because it's just so intense. And then things take a really wild turn. So I'm already not having a good time. Okay, I had ton of malaise, tons of fatigue. It feels like Satan's riding me on the inside of my brain. And I mean, seriously, it just feels like whoa, 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 inside my brain. Just this weird energy state of just awful. And my hand's shaking. My leg keeps like buckling out every time I go for a walk. And I'm having trouble talking. I'm trying to talk to him. I can't talk to my parents. So instead I just stay quiet all day because I don't know what's going on. I'm not raising the alarms like I should, because if you're having these kind of problems, you should be like kind of freaking out a little bit. But I kind of keep it low key. I can bring up my problems, but I'm not making it as big of a deal as I should. And then things get really, really bad. And this is after I took some CBD oil for sleep to help me sleep. It wasn't really for me to help me sleep. I was taking it just to test run it for my brother, because my brother was having insane insomnia, just literally, because he's lockstep going through this with me. He's getting zero sleep, like most of the time. He'd get 4 hours, maybe 4 to 6 hours when he's lucky, and a lot of times he's getting close to no sleep at all. So he's having insane insomnia. So I'm testing out the CBD, really low strength, like CBD THC oil, like microscopic dose of that stuff. And I take it. I'm playing Scrabble. I kind of feel it kick in. It's a little bit like calming, soothing, whatever. Okay, I'm going to be honest, I smoked a big rip out of a bong before. I'm not an amateur when it comes to weed. Okay, so what happens next is a little bizarre. I go to bed that night, fall asleep immediately, so I guess it works. And then I wake up at, I don't know, like 2, 3 a.m., somewhere around that time. And I just have this nightmarish sinking feeling, like this, like my heart is falling out my ass or something. This nightmare, depressive, sinking, horror, impending doom kind of feeling. And I'm like in bed. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I stand up out of bed, and I'm like, I think I'm about to have a panic attack. I've had a panic attack before, so I'm familiar with them. And I'm like, I think I'm about to have a panic attack. And I think maybe, I guess I'm just high. Like, I guess the weed just kicked in. So I go take a bath. I'm still at my parents' place. Go to the guest bathroom, run some water, take a bath. I'm like, just stay calm, chill, it'll pass. So I'm browsing my phone. Eventually the feeling does pass, but it wasn't like I got high. It was like panic. And I know people associate CBD and THC with panic. Trust me, I've been pretty fucked up before, and I've had no problem with panic. But it's this insane like stimulation in the brain. And I'm just like writing it out. And eventually that feeling passes. I go back to bed. Next day, we're getting to the weird stuff, I promise you. This isn't just all boring story. Next day, I wake up feeling super hungover. Feel like I drank like 20 beers. I felt terrible. Make it through that entire day. Still have the wubs in the head and everything, numbness and all that. Make it through the entire day. Finally, it's bedtime. Get ready for bed. We're staying at our parents' place still. And I go to bed. And I lay there, and then my brain lights up with intense panic, and I just start shaking. Like, I'm laying in bed, and I start shaking. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm just filled with intense panic. And I text my mom. I say, I can't stop. I'm panicking. I can't stop shaking. And I go upstairs, and I look at my mom's face, and my mom's face looks evil. Like, her eyes look like these black, beady eyes that are evil. And I'm vibrating and shaking, and I start crying because it just filled with intense, like, primal fear. And she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. I just can't stop. I can't stop shaking. And I'm violently shaking and violently crying. And my dad comes out of his bedroom, and his face looks the same way. It's kind of hard to describe. It's a perceptual thing. It's not like their faces looked literally like morphed or something like that. But it looked like perceptually they were evil. Like I was looking into the eyes of Antichrist, basically. And I don't know what to say. I'm crying. I'm shaking. My brain feels insanely agitated, and I get the feeling that this is left over from the CBD. Something, it just agitated my brain. Eventually, we go to the ER. I get some Ativan. I get enough Ativan to finally go to sleep. The funny thing is, I had 2 milligrams of Ativan, and we go home finally, and I can finally start trying to sleep. And my dad comes into my room and wakes me up, and he asks for my gun because he wants me to be safe. But the funny thing is, I was dreaming very happily, because Ativan makes you feel pretty good, nice and relaxed. I was dreaming very happily about butterflies and wonderful times, and then my dad wakes me up asking for my gun. I thought that was kind of ironic. Now, I can't overemphasize how my parents' faces looked. They looked evil. And for the next probably 4 or 5 months, that's what people's faces would look like. They would look like evil, very staticky and very beady-eyed, super evil looking. And I was just visiting my parents' house, and I ended up staying there for like all the way to April. So like 5 months at their place. But anyway, I wake up the next morning, and that morning, and for many mornings after that, I am fighting off panic attacks constantly fighting off panic attacks. I wake up, and the world will be swirling around me in this nightmarish panic, and like it's dizzying how much panic there is. My heart is like leaping out of my chest. But I know how to handle panic attacks. I've had them before. The worst thing you can do is try to fight off a panic attack. So what you do is you just let it happen. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. But that didn't help at all. I would sit and like be singing to myself and just kind of rocking and like trying to relax. And that feeling of intense, literally having a panic attack, wouldn't go away for hours. So I struggled with that for weeks. And also right after, and when I had the whole CBD thing and was taking a bath, I had this intense olfactory hallucination of like burning metal. And so there's just some weird stuff going on. Like, see, the CBD, THC oil, like, it really agitated my brain in a weird way. Like, it caused an olfactory hallucination, which is really bizarre. And then after that, I'm dealing with all these panic attacks, and the world is super staticky. Like, now I have what's called visual snow. The whole world is like this film of static. And I'm looking at my parents' faces, and they look in my brother's face, my other brother's face, and they look super staticky, like static film over their face, and evil. And so I'm eating dinner with my parents and everybody, and I'm just looking down at my plate, because when I look up, like, their faces look horrifying. And I'm not sure at what point I expressed to them that their faces looked horrifying, but it definitely wasn't soon enough. My twin brother at this point has not hit this level of psych symptoms yet, but he will in due time. It was like the CBD oil like triggered it for me, but for him it just took longer. Started September. We're in November. God damn it, I'm mixing things up. Whatever. Sometime before the THC CBD thing, I had some auditory hallucinations. I was watching a movie with my I have an older brother, Bradley, and then my twin brother, Eric. I was watching a movie with them, and it was The Quiet Place 2. Not very good, from what I remember. And I heard my brother laughing to my right, and I look over at him, and he's not laughing. And then I heard Eric to my left. He called out something about the movie, and as he's calling it out, I look over, and he's not saying anything. And I feel like I'm like living in this dream world, like I'm totally separate from reality. Everything looks like a dream. And Eric turns and looks at me, and his face looks very bizarre and far away and distant and very strange. So that was before the THC thing. After the THC thing, my life is just hell. I become like incapacitated. My brain is completely filled with this nightmarish, electrifying, painful fog. And the world around me is just horrifying in a way that I wouldn't really wish upon anybody. I can't interact with the world at all. It feels extremely bizarre. And those perceptual shifts I had earlier become more magnified, where I have these intense feelings of disconnection from reality, and like my brain's in a vacuum sealed ice pack, and I can't feel anything, and I can't feel anything. I can't feel anything. It's like a horrible feeling. I can't feel anything. I can't interact with the world around me. And like, it's not just like an emotional state like anhedonia, where you like can't feel emotions very much. It's a whole new state of mind of absolute torture. So we go and see a neurologist, because I'm having, I think probably it's by November, December-ish, I've had kind of, my parents are a little bit more alarmed about what's going on. But really, Eric and I held our tongue pretty much way too long on the symptoms, even when we were staying at their place. Like, we just didn't ring the bell. At some point prior to this, I went and saw a doctor to get some basic labs done before I had all this psych symptoms start developing. All the labs came back normal, and I wanted an antibody test done for COVID, and that came back negative. And I told her I had an auditory hallucination, and I want an MRI because I have my hands shaking as well. It's like, I've had an auditory hallucination, my hands are shaking, there's something wrong with me, I want an MRI. And she said, well, let's just wait on it a couple months, because usually these things, if you need, an MRI, like, they'll get worse instead of better. And I'm like, bitch, please, are you seriously gonna make me wait 2 months to see if I need an MRI? Like, why would you want to wait for things to get worse? Anyway, by December, I actually go see a neurologist in northern Idaho, where my parents live, and she orders an MRI. Go get it done. It comes back normal. I don't even know how to tell the rest of the story. It becomes a haze. From December through April is this haze of trying to make it through every day, where everyone's face looks like the Antichrist. The static film is everywhere. I'm having these horrible psychotic shifts where all of a sudden the whole world will you just become psychotic. Like, it's hard to explain unless you've experienced it, but you become psychotic, where you feel like you could hallucinate at a moment's notice. My neurologist runs some labs, and some certain labs come back high for corporoporphyrins, which can indicate a condition called porphyria, which can cause psychosis. So we thought we might have porphyria, and with porphyria, you have to have a very limited diet to avoid these attacks that can cause psychosis. And so for like a month, Eric and I are eating like plain noodles and chicken while having these psychotic breaks and these massive painful perceptual shifts, as well as just being wrapped in this intense fog where you can't interact with the world. I really can't do it justice. It's excruciatingly painful. Just trust me on that. So we'd get some DNA testing for porphyria to see if we have it. And of course, we're hoping we have it so that we at least have an answer to what's going on. Why my hands are shaking, why I can't talk, why am I filled with this malaise, why am I having psychotic breaks? And the DNA testing comes back negative. So that's the first of many devastating blows. Like, we still don't know what's going on. We get an MRI, it comes back normal. Well, shit. Like, what is going on? It's like all inside my head and nobody can see it. It's all these internal symptoms. And I'm telling my doctor, I'm like, please just don't send me to psych, because this is not just a psych issue. We're having some sort of neurological issue. And she reassures me at this point that yeah, I just obviously have neurological issues. I had some neurological deficits. I had a little bit of clonus in my ankles, lip droop, hand tremor, and maybe a couple other things. But I'm suffering every day, mostly laying around. We'll take our dog Watson on the walks, but besides that, I have to just lay down, get in a ball, and just tough the day out. And it's a lot of days.
Hey, this is Adam from the past. Things got pretty bad. I'm just checking in, making one of those videos so you look back and maybe think, gee, I'm really, really glad that I'm not back there, because man, it fucking blows. So hopefully you're feeling better. Shit, I was saying this exact same shit 14 days in. 100 days later, here I am. So hopefully in 100 more days, we'll see a little bit more improvement. God help me. I love you. I'll see you soon. Bye.
So first, we're clinging on to the porphyria thing and hoping that comes back positive, comes back negative. MRI is clean, so we're like, next is spinal tap, because we got to see if there's some antibodies. Maybe you have autoimmune encephalitis or some sort of encephalitis. We want to see if there's antibodies for that, and so we get a spinal tap done. And when I'm getting the spinal tap done, I'm leaning over a desk, and not the best way to do a spinal tap, as I come to find out, just because it can mess with the numbers. But as he's doing the spinal tap, he says, "Wow, your pressure is super elevated." And that was the first moment where I was like, thank God, maybe there's something wrong with me that people can actually see. Because so far, it's like nobody can see anything, but I'm losing my goddamn mind. I feel absolutely insane. I had to sleep in the same room as my brother with the lamp on, because I'm having nightmarish psychotic breaks and I'm filled with panic. And he would sleep on the floor for me. So we're not sharing the same bed, but he'd sleep on the floor for me, and I would sleep on the bed with the lamp on. And one night when I tried to sleep on my own, my brain would just light up with terror. And I came into his bedroom and shone a flashlight in his face to wake him up. And here's a photo of him mocking what I looked like. So we get a spinal tap, and we're getting results in from the spinal tap, and nothing. Negative, 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 negative. Everything's negative. Can't get anything positive. Finally, one thing comes back positive: myelin basic protein. It's a protein in your myelin sheath, and when it's elevated, it can indicate demyelination, which is common in multiple sclerosis, but I didn't have it. The other indicators of multiple sclerosis did not pop up, but it indicated that there could be some demyelination going on as the outer coating of your nerves are being destroyed, and the protein's now filling up your spinal fluid into a protein shake. But as I come to find out, neurologists really don't give a shit about anything that's non-specific. If it's not diagnostic, they don't care. So I come to find out my neurologist does not give a damn about myelin basic protein. So on my second appointment with my neurologist, all the stuff had come back from the spinal tap completely negative, no antibodies, nothing. And I plead my case with her. I tell her, I don't even know how I'm having this conversation with you. My brain is so filled with brain fog, and I feel like I have Alzheimer's. I spend most of my day laying around and staring because my brain cannot be occupied by anything but suffering. And I plead my case. If there's any sort of autoimmune response going on, I want to try to treat it. Like, can we just try treatment? When the treatment would be intravenous immunoglobulins would be one. The other would be steroids. And at that point, she said no, because there were a few more things that had to come back from the spinal tap. But once all the spinal tap things come back, she goes, okay, we'll try IVIG. She sends in the order for IVIG, and we ask for a referral to Mayo to see if they can get to the bottom of it. IVIG orders come back denied, saying we have to try steroids first. Steroids are much cheaper. IVIG is like basically antibodies taken from like thousands of blood donors, so it's super expensive. It's sludge. But it comes back negative, and we have to try steroids. And at this point, I'm just going to play a video of me in the bathtub so you can kind of get a picture of my mental state. The inside of my brain feels like a popcorn kernel that has burst, and there's like ants eating it. That's what it feels like. Every morning I wake up and I'm slapping my head like, God damn, like God, this feels so horrible. So here's me in the bathtub to explain.
I'm out of my goddamn mind. I am out of my goddamn mind. Which I suppose is normal if you have encephalitis. And I suppose I shouldn't lose any hope. But I am out of my goddamn mind. Nothing upstairs is functioning normally. It is just absolute chaos up there. Goddamn.
So all the stuff comes back negative on the spinal tap, and that was also a devastating blow because I was hoping autoimmune encephalitis. It feels like my brain's inflamed. Things are going wacky. Nothing's operating correctly. This has got to be encephalitis. And when all the antibodies came back negative and everything else came back negative in the spinal tap, I cried a little bit, and I got up, and it's time to push on to the next thing and try to figure out what the hell's going on. But that was also a really devastating blow, because find an antibody, you're in the hospital, they're treating you. You don't find one, well, you feel like you're fucked. And I really felt like I was fucked. Next devastating blow, as I'm suffering day after day after day, and these days are long, okay? It's long days of doing absolutely nothing. I can't engage with the world. I can't read. I can't track movies. I'm watching movies, and my brain will glitch. Every time like a scene changes, my brain will glitch out. I'll perceive scenes as overlapping. One scene will happen, then the next scene will happen, but my brain perceives it as if they both happened at the same time. So there's nothing I can do. I can't read. So I'm basically doing absolutely nothing. And for a large chunk of it, I thought I had porphyria, and with porphyria, you have to eat sugar to prevent the attacks. And so we're cramming like cinnamon rolls and like sugar cubes down our throat while having these psychotic breaks. And it's all for naught because we didn't have porphyria. So eventually we get the Mayo thing referral sent off. It gets denied. Another devastating blow. But you can appeal it. We appeal it. It gets denied. Another devastating blow. We get a referral to Virginia Mason. Wait, what? Am I missing anything? Oh yeah, February. That was a fun month. That was a fun month indeed. One night, Derek and I were browsing through his phone, looking at old Snapchat videos, and on my phone, and a really creepy Snapchat video popped up, and I'm gonna play it. If you don't want to see something that's kind of creepy, you can just skip ahead like 30 seconds to a minute. I'd say 30 seconds is fine. But if you want to see a creepy video, it's just kind of creepy. It's not horrifying, but here it is.
Hey, buddy. Are you sleeping okay? Just want to make sure you're sleeping all right. Sweet dreams.
But when we watched that video, it was not like we were watching some Snapchat video. It was like literally I had stared into the eyes of the Antichrist. And we were both sitting there like, oh, God, Jesus, like, why do we look at that? Oh, fuck. No, it's just a video. It's fine. Fuck. Like, it had rocked me. Like, my entire nervous system was just completely rocked by that. It literally felt like I'd looked into the eyes of the devil and he was speaking to me. That's what it felt like because my brain was psychotic. Okay, it wasn't perceived in like a normal, this is a Snapchat filter way. It was like not just a creepy way either. It was like I'd literally stared into the eyes of the Antichrist and he was speaking to me. That's the kind of mind state I was in. Anyway, I think this is what precipitated, it was just such an intense shock to the nervous system, just that whole feeling, that I think it precipitated what happened next, where the next day I slowly become more and more dissociated, and I'm just crying intermittently throughout the day. I'm becoming more and more dissociated and emotionally liable. Is that what the term is? And to the point where I feel like I can't see. Like I'm so dissociated, so disconnected from reality that even though I can see the stuff, it's there, I can see it, I feel like I'm blind because I'm so disconnected from reality. And at this point, I'm packing my bags to go to a hospital that's a few hours away, to go to the emergency room to get some inpatient care because I'm losing my goddamn mind and nothing's coming back positive. So we drive all the way there. We wait in the emergency room. I'm intermittently sobbing. Something's slowly happening to my brain. I don't know what you call it. The psych ward suite inpatient portion where they take your information, and it's not the emergency room like you're talking to a doctor. You're like talking to a social worker. And I gave my story of everything that happened. She passed that story along to a psychiatrist that works there because I'm now in the psych section of things because I'm having psych symptoms. And at this point, everything, my perceptual, the way the world looks around me is very bizarre. I can't explain exactly what it looks like. Very bizarre. It's like the contrast is turned up. Mouths are like lagging behind speech. Things are kind of like blurred, and everything perceptually looks really, really strange. So I'm having a psychotic break. Psychosis doesn't necessarily mean you're hallucinating, although it can be. It just means you're having a break from reality, and that's exactly what I was having. So she takes my whole story. I tell her the whole story from beginning to now, how I'm telling it to you here. Maybe even a little better. I feel like I'm kind of bombing here, but it's just the best I can do to give you a picture. My brain's not all the way better, so it's just the best I can do. She tells the psych guy. Psych guy says he has bipolar. Tells her. She tells me that I have bipolar, and I'm like, I do not have fucking bipolar. I start chewing out this social worker. I'm like, I don't have bipolar. Okay, I have hand tremors, I have clonus, I have neurological deficits. Okay, I have an elevated myelin basic protein, at which point I didn't realize neurologists think it is totally worthless. Like, I do not have bipolar. I'm enraged at this point because it's a scary place to be. You have to think about it. Like, I'm having all these crazy psych symptoms. I feel like my brain's on fire and there's a pot, like it's exploded, and I'm having a psychotic break. And I'm like, I know there's something that's physically wrong with me that's causing these symptoms. And now I'm starting to go down the slippery slope that I never wanted to go down, which is the psych slope, where you end up in a psych ward and get medicated, and then you get kind of lost in the system, and people think it's a psych problem when there's something physical going on. Ultimately, I agree to be admitted, though, because what am I going to do? I'm having a psychotic break. I don't want to go home. I need meds at this point. I've gone so far without any sort of medication besides Advil, which would help. It actually did help with my panic attacks and with just symptoms in general. But I get admitted. They throw me in like brown scrubs, slap me in a wheelchair, and haul me off down some hallways. It's like 2 a.m. at this point, and they drop me off at a room that's it's 2 beds, 2 individual beds, a little bookshelf between them, and that's it. And there's this vent rattling up in the corner. I get kind of scared because I'm having a psychotic break. I'm totally alone. I do not want to sleep in this fucking freaky ass room. So I call my dad. Eventually, we just kind of come to the conclusion that, like, what am I going to do? Go home? Like, we went through all this process of inpatient, all that to get here. They gave me some antipsychotic meds, which calmed me down, and I spent 2 days there. 2 days at inpatient. They gave me Ativan and antipsychotic called Zyprexa. And Zyprexa makes you very tired and very hungry. So every time food came around, I ate the shit out of that. But I didn't leave my bed almost at all. I spent the whole 48 hours just laying in my bed, staring at the back of my eyelids, hating my life. Especially when I spoke with my dad, and he had spoken with some people at Mayo. He knew a guy. He went to med school. My dad went to med school, and he knew a guy in Mayo. And the guy in Mayo talked to some doctors. They reviewed my charts and stuff, and they said they don't think I have autoimmune encephalitis. And when my dad told me that, I felt completely hopeless. I was like, "There's nothing." I told him. I said, "Dad, I'm so scared." Like, I was crying. "Dad, I'm so scared." Like, nothing will humble you more than that experience. So I felt utterly hopeless, having a psychotic break, laying on this bed, staring at the back of my eyelids all day because I can't read. There's a book in my room. I can't read. It's impossible for my brain to read. They handed me a piece of paper to select what food I wanted for the day, and I'm grunting looking at it. Like, I'm like, oh, I can't do it. I'm like trying to circle shit. It's like too much. It's over stimulus just looking at words. So I do nothing for 48 hours. Occasionally I'd get up and pace the halls. For some reason they had a 72 hour COVID hold where you couldn't leave the psych ward for 72 hours until, which is weird because I had they did a COVID test and came back negative. But anyway, so occasionally I'd walk the hallways and I'd ask the nurses for antipsychotic meds because I'm telling them, like, I'm psychotic, I need more medication. Eventually I realized this is going nowhere because I talked to the psychiatrist, and he says I have bipolar because I had mentioned the word manic at one point, which what I meant was overstimulated. My brain felt overstimulated, but I said manic. So he diagnosed me with bipolar. So rip, there goes my aviation goals. I was learning to fly before all this happened, and that'll ground you pretty good. So I don't know if I'll ever get that scrubbed out or not. But he said I had bipolar disorder. I was like, okay. I'm staring at him. He looks freaky as hell. The whole room's staticky. Everything has like these weird colored lines around him. Perceptually, the world looks very bizarre. My brain feels like it's on fire, and I'm like, I have bipolar disorder. Like, I'm talking to him coherently, so my brain's all there. I'm not mentally not there. I'm all there. It's just I'm having this weird psychotic break. And I asked him, I'm like, what are the odds that you think it's physical? And he said, it's probably 20% chance that it's physical. And in my mind, it's 100% chance. So it's like, anyway, I dismissed that doctor. I realized it's going nowhere, at least nowhere I like. And so I call my dad and I say, I'm done. I'm going home. And my mom picks me up, and everything looks so freaky and weird. And she picks me up, and I hug her and I say, Mom, I don't want to be crazy anymore. And she drives me home, and I sit at the dinner table with my family, and my oldest brother Michael's there now, and everybody. The whole scene looks bizarre, like high contrast. Mouths are lagging words, and things are like blurring. Massive psychosis without hallucinations, but it was a psychosis, break from reality nonetheless. But they prescribed me Ativan, and I take Ativan and I calm down. So that was a nightmare February. So now I'm on meds. I'm on an antipsychotic called Zyprexa, which has made me really fat. My lowest was 160. Here's a photo of me at the beginning when I initially started having symptoms. I became anorexic and dropped down to like 160 something. And now I'm like 190 something because Zyprexa makes you hungry as hell. So at this point I'm on Zyprexa and I'm on Ativan, eventually switched to Klonopin, very addictive medications, but at this point I needed them because I'm like, I hate my life so much. I need something to like take some of the pain away. I've been suffering long enough. So at least in the evenings I was like, felt okay, but the meds had stacked up throughout the day and I felt like my brain was smoothed over and calmed down and I can handle it a little bit. So at this point, my dad kind of thinks it's a psych issue. Like he's saying it's psych. I'm arguing. I'm like, I'm still ill. There's something wrong with me. It was kind of a little bit of a battle of like, is there actually anything physical going on? Because none of the doctors are finding anything, and I'm having psych symptoms. And meanwhile, I'm like, fucking course I'm having psych symptoms. There's something wrong with my brain. If you have something wrong with your heart, you're gonna have heart symptoms or whatever. It's gonna flutter. When you have something wrong with your brain, you're going to have psych symptoms. Like, it was obvious to me that I'm not having psych symptoms, but they can't see it. And I don't want to say my parents were not supportive, because they were very supportive, unbelievably supportive throughout this whole thing. I'm just saying there were moments where it was like, is this a psych issue? And that's what happens when you can't see from the inside. Like, I'm doing my best to tell this story as best I can. It's really hard because of the things that I perceive, all the weird perceptual stuff, it's indescribable. The states of being and experiences I've felt throughout these 7 months are indescribable. I can do my best, but they're indescribable. You don't know until you've felt them yourself. And so when you don't know what it's exactly like, you might think, well, it's possible that it could be a psych problem. Anyway, I'm terrified of being labeled psych, but we keep pursuing neurology. My brother goes to Virginia Mason, sees one neurologist. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. But my brother's spinal fluid had elevated protein. Mine didn't. His did. Elevated protein means brain damage. So that at least gets neurologists a little bit interested. Mine just had elevated myelin basic protein. They really don't care about that, I've come to learn. So he sees one neurologist there, and it takes a long time to see a neurologist. Like, we're waiting weeks to get in, maybe a month or whatever, to get in and see a neurologist. It takes a long-ass time. It's not easy. He sees a neurologist, doesn't know, refers him on to a different neurologist. We have to wait some weeks. He goes to see this other neurologist, and my brother he's stubborn. He's not a pushover. He's very stubborn, and he pushes hard for steroids, and he gets it. Meanwhile, I'm pursuing a different neurologist at University Hospitals of Cleveland. I'm not going to dox him. Eventually, I get seen by him on telemed, and he says, stop pursuing this autoimmune thing. I recommend that you pursue psych. And I'm like, great. Another big blow. Because in my mind, I'm having something physical happen to me. It feels physical. I'm not just having a psychotic break for no reason. And why would both me and my twin brother have it at the exact same time? Like, something weird's going on here, but it's not just a psychotic break that's coincidentally happening at the same time. And people are looking, like doctors look for, what are the two people doing that are the same? To find some link that could cause this. But guess what? We do everything the same. We get up, we do everything the same. We eat all the same food. We walk the dog together at the same time. We go to the same restaurants. We take the same medication. We shower at the same time. Not literally, we're not in the same shower at the same time, but like, we get ready for bed at the same. Like, everything's the same. Our clock is exactly in tune together because we live together and we've been joined at the hip since birth. Also not literally. But then finally in April, after my brother pushes the neurologist for steroids, and he says, well, it's kind of 50-50 with steroids. The steroids will do anything. It's anti-itis, but I don't really see anything here that could help. But, it's not the worst idea. And Eric's like, okay, it's not the worst idea. Let's fucking do it. And so he pushes him and gets steroids. And they work. Steroids work. They help. They improve things by like 50%. And that's in April, finally in April. So this started in September. This hell that I've only scraped the surface of by telling you the story started in September and finally met the beginning of its end in April when Eric got steroids and he had some improvement. I contacted my local neurologist saying I want it as well. because she's the one who ultimately sent off the orders, and she sent it off as long as, oh yeah, way back when we had IVIG and steroids, and the IVIG got denied, we had to have steroids. She wouldn't give it. That's why we had to pursue other neurologists, is because our local neurologist wouldn't give it because it can cause other psychotic symptoms, and she didn't want to do that. And I'm like, bitch, please, I will take anything, even more psychotic symptoms, if there's a chance that it could help me. So she withheld treatment from like, I don't know what it was, like late December all the way to April. That's 4 months of hell, of psychotic, excruciating hell that she withheld for that long because she was scared of psychotic problems, more worsening psychosis. I'm like, bitch, please, I don't care if I'm seeing my dead grandpa in the corner. I want to try it to see if it will help. And I'm on Zyprexa. I'm on an antipsychotic, 10 milligrams. That shit knocks you out. It would knock out any sort of psychosis. So she prolongs it for 4 months until she gets daddy's approval from Virginia Mason to do steroids on Eric, and it works. Imagine that this entire time we're arguing for something that's inflammatory and steroids work. Unfortunately, steroids are non-specific, which means you can't say that it was inflammation. In my opinion, I call bullshit. The way it felt and the way the symptoms presented and the way the steroids worked, I think there's a pretty good chance that it was inflammatory mediated, which would mean it was encephalitis, autoimmune or otherwise. So imagine that the entire time you're trying to tell everybody. I was in the psych ward going up and like telling everybody who spoke with me that I have possibly encephalitis. I think it's encephalitis. I do not have a psych problem. I think it's encephalitis. This entire time I'm telling everybody it's inflammatory mediated, and people are like, I don't know. You know, everyone's kind of starting to push against you because you're not getting any of the things to pop pot. And finally, the steroids work, and you're like, ha, fuckers. It was inflammatory mediated. And they're like, it's not specific, so the best we can do is post-viral non-recurrent encephalopathy, which is basically just a worthless diagnosis, in my opinion. My mom would argue otherwise. She would say it's something to cling on to, but in my opinion, it's worthless. I think it's encephalitis, and I think the steroids were proof of that. Mild, moderate case, weird case, I don't care. It was encephalitis nonetheless. And so shortly after that, in April, I get my treatment of steroids, and I have a very good time. Because steroids make you feel, can make you feel very good, and they make me feel very, very good. And finally, faces start looking normal. After the steroids, I come home, and my parents' faces start looking normal. And like, it used to look like this. There's like wherever my center of vision was, there's like a magnifying glass, like it bubbled their face out. That's what it looked like. And I'd look out in the landscape, and it like bubbled where I'm looking, but I couldn't really see anywhere else. It was like it was perceptual. It wasn't like I had blind spots, but I couldn't really see everywhere else. I couldn't see the full landscape. It'd just be like right where I'm looking is like a little bubble, almost like a magnifying glass. And finally, after the steroids, I can start to see their faces again, and they don't look like the Antichrist anymore. But you can imagine the damage it does to one's psyche, psychologically, to see their family members' faces as like the devil. Like they all look like little devils for like 4 or 5 months. Not good. And it's also not healthy for the brain to be in a state of psychosis constantly for that long. So even though I got the steroids in April, and they provided massive relief, because now I'm doing a video where otherwise I was just curled up on the ball listening to lo-fi beats just trying to get through the day. Now I can actually do a video. But I still have problems because, you know, it was so long. It was 7 months of hell. And I still have perceptual problems where the world still looks really strange. Seems to be slowly improving. I have a lot of like panicky feelings. Sometimes I feel really crazy, and it kind of scares me. I have intense brain fog. There's residual stuff that I'm working through, but the good news is the hell phase of it is finally over. But life is hard. Life right now is really, really hard, to be honest. It is very difficult. Every day is very difficult. I still feel very mentally unstable, and I just don't feel like myself at all, as you can imagine. And there's also just fear of like, how much recovery am I going to get? When will the world look normal? Because it still looks really weird, just perceptually very bizarre. I still have some visual snow, visual static. You know, there's just a lot of fear and a lot of just not feeling like myself at all after being in basically psychosis for at least 5 months out of that whole experience. So it's something to be working through, and it's something that you're going to see come out in videos. It's just videos gonna be a little different, I think. Maybe have a little bit of flavor. I don't think it'll be worse, but they're just gonna be a little bit I don't give a shit, because I don't give a shit. Right now I'm focusing on getting better as best as I can. And the way I told the stories, the best I can do it in my first try, because I'm not going to retell this story again. I hate telling it. I've told it to so many doctors, and it's hard to break out of the mold of trying to tell it, of telling it in a pleading way, a way to like hear me, like please hear me out. And it's hard to break out of that mold and just tell it honestly of how I experienced it. But that's the best I can do. That's the best I can do, is how I told the story right there. And maybe slap some photos in there to make it, tie the whole thing together. But it's been an absolute nightmare. I'm thankful of where I am, because where I was, if I were alone, I wouldn't have made it. Let's put it that way. If I didn't have family to support me, if I didn't have my twin brother to going through it with me, I wouldn't have made it, if you catch my drift. So, I'm thankful for where I am, and I'm thankful for what I hope to be here in the next coming months and maybe year. And I'm happy that I'm talking to you guys again. And I appreciate you hearing me out and listening to my story. I almost want to cry, because it was so bad. And I appreciate you bearing witness to the suffering that both me and my brother have gone through. A lot of life lessons learned after a certain point, though. You learn a lot of life lessons through pointless suffering. You learn patience. You learn what's valuable in your life and what's not valuable. It trims the fat. You learn to not ever take anything for granted ever again. But after a certain point of pointless suffering, it just becomes you've capped out, and you can't learn any more lessons, and it's just pain. And there were so many months of pain. But in the future is bright, in my opinion. I think it's gonna be a long and kind of painful recovery, but I think my future is bright. It's just gonna be a long time before I feel 100% like normal again. Everything feels weird. Life is a little bit upside down, but hey, everybody's dodging bullets every day, and they don't know it until they hit one. And when you hit one, it can hurt. And this one stung a lot, but we're staying positive, and we'll get there. That was a glimpse into my life over the last 7 months. It doesn't cover every aspect of it at all, not even close, but it's the best I can do in one take. And that's it, I guess. And I just want to say, love the hell out of you guys. You guys rock. And I've gotten a lot of support on Twitter and YouTube from you guys, which has kept me going through. It's just nice. It's nice having people support you and say, hang in there, good luck. It'll be okay. It'll be a memory one day. So thank you. That's it. Peace out. Catch you later.